all had to deal with criticism before, you know that? And I'm sure that you always have to steel yourself with the typical boilerplate suggestions about being humble. You want to listen to the criticism. However, not all criticism is created equal. Oftentimes in a speech evaluation, you get 2 to 3 minutes tops of people talking about what you need to improve. But it's possible to have much, much, much more than this. Like what I did recently. I wrote a novel. And in order to have this novel reviewed, I contacted my sister, who is a professional editor. And the potential for criticism is much greater because the stakes are much higher. She has edited a lot of different publications, including just websites, newsletters. She's really good at what she does. She's got a great eye for detail. She understands story and plot structure great. And more importantly than anything else, if there's a problem, she's going to let you know. Some more information about her. Jennifer Allen Marsh is, well, something of a woman, and you can kind of see from her expression that she's kind of cunning and devious and maybe even mean-spirited. And yeah, I do realize that looks can often be deceiving. But in this case, no, there's no deception. She's every bit as terrifying as this expression would have you believe. She can be unspeakably cruel at times. Oh yeah, if only she has a reason. And so when she heard from me not to hold back on my novel because I was her brother, and to be perfectly honest with me, she regarded me in a calm expression like this one, and she told me, "Okay, Chris, I'll get right on it." At which point she reached into her pocket and she whipped out a plus-size red pen and showed it to me as if it were a trophy. Now, I had not realized this at the time, but all professional editors carry around red pens in their person at all hours of the day, just in case they have to whip it out and then furiously slash up a page with red ink. Yeah, that's right, they do this. It's true that the pen is mightier than the sword, especially in the hands of an editor, because they'll draw more blood with that red pen of theirs than a single sword will see in a lifetime of usage. Now, having said all that, I'm sure that the question on all your minds is, what did this professional swordswoman do to my manuscript? Well, she did a lot. Every single possible spot where she could mark it up, she marked it up. There was a lot of red on the pages. Yep, everything from short issues to correct to very serious issues to correct, she marked it up. And on occasion, she actually had something nice to say. Oh, it's probably a little bit too much, a little bit overwhelming to get this much criticism at once. And yet I have to say that it's really not that different from handling criticism when it comes to a speech, to something which is small scale. You just need to know how to categorize and organize all of it. What I did is I took all of the criticism I got, loads and loads of it, and I separated it into easy and hard tasks. The easy ones being, as you can see here, just general items that aren't going to require a whole lot of attention. Just change a few words here, one sentence there. And there's solutions for either, all of them. I mean, like, it's easy to solve a typo. Word processing, take the word out, put a word in. If you have to rewrite a sentence due to some logical inconsistency, that's pretty easy. If some words aren't going to work, some people think they're too offensive, then you might have to rewrite it. A little harder if it's a punchline, but still it's pretty straightforward. And then this next issue, you simply write too much. This is an issue that I have, and indeed it seems like a lot of writers have this problem. I don't have so much pride that it's difficult for me, though. If the editor says if it's too much, I'll take it out. One example of one thing that I had to fix. Jen thought that these two girls bickering at the very start of the story were in detention. And it's obvious to them that they're in detention, but it might not be obvious to the reader. So I had to change the dialogue around a little bit to make it more obvious to the reader that they were in detention. Another fairly easy pick was, what I had to do was, I was talking about a racist senator as one of the characters in the book. And Jen thought that it was a little bit too offensive, the things that he said. So I went ahead, deferred to my editor and said, okay, well, I can rework the words such that it's very obvious that the guy's racist, but I don't need to let the reader know exactly all the gory details to that effect. So I've only talked about the easy tasks. Oh, there are much harder tasks to deal with in writing. Sometimes you can't just simply change a sentence around. You might have to do some pretty intensive surgery on a chapter or multiple chapters. Examples here. Sometimes if you've made a mistake when it comes to plot threads just not working, you're going to have to change one chapter, just really heavily edit a chapter, multiple sentences, multiple chapters. That can be pretty tedious. Or if you've made an inconsistent kind of mistake with like everything, like a single character has like an idiosyncrasy that you need to correct, you'll have to touch it up in every single chapter in the book. Very tedious, but you got to do it. Also, there's the opposite problem of writing too much. Sometimes you write too little. Sometimes you actually have to add more stuff which isn't in your outline. And then finally, this last problem, thankfully, I did not have to deal with. Although sometimes writers deal with this. Your editor says, I'm sorry, your book is not working. It's not compelling, it's not going to sell. You're just going to have to find something else to do with the material. Now, one example of something I had to fix, a hard task, was that I kept having this nasty habit of refocusing the perspective on different protagonists within a chapter. My editor thought this was disconcerting, and so I had to fix this in pretty much every chapter where it happened. Not easy to do at all. It was a pretty intensive editing operation. When it comes to not writing enough, when my sister would like to see a casual conversation that happened actually play out in conversation with dialogue lines and everything, this terrifies me. If it's not on the outline, I feel trapped. I feel stuck. It's kind of like writing a new novella in its own right. I'm trying to do it in a way that you're kind of flying blind, not in the way that you organized it. Since I'm one of those people that does not fly blind, I really have to organize. This is not to say my sister had only bad things to say about it. By and large, she liked the book, and it accomplished exactly what I had set out to do. She thought the characters were interesting, first chapter sucked her in, and the humor largely hit home. This is all very, very good news, despite all the criticism. So with that in mind, I just want to leave you with this. If you have rapid fire criticism, if you have a whole lot of stuff that you have to work on, all it really is quantity. Ultimately, you're going to have to deal with it, because while the first draft might be all about you, ultimately, it's always going to be about your audience. Thank you.